what's up guys? So today I'm going to show you how to make your very own paper flower templates by hand. What you will need is a cutting board, and you don't necessarily have to have a cutting board. You could definitely use a ruler. I like to use graph paper as opposed to just plain white paper, just because it's easier to measure and also it helps you to keep your lines nice and straight. Scissors and a pen. That is all you need. Alright, let's get started. So as you can see, I've already folded my graph paper in half. It was just a plain 8.5 by 11 sheet of graph paper, and I just folded it in half. And make sure when you fold it in half, you're folding it directly on a line so that it doesn't mess up your measurements. So if you fold it like halfway through, that's going to get all of your measurements off. So be very careful not to do that. And I have 4 sheets of graph paper because I'm going to make a template for a 4-layer flower. If you only want to make 3, then you only need 3 sheets of paper. One of the first things you need to do is write down all of your measurements. You want to have that together before you start drawing and measuring and cutting and everything like that. So again, we're going to have 4 layers, and the 3 measurements that you need are height, width, and base. So, and let me zoom in so you can see that a little bit better. Alright. So that's the good part about making your own template. You can do it exactly the way you want it. If you want a small flower, if you want a huge flower, you're free to do exactly what you want. So I was playing around with different measurements, and I think I've gotten some measurements that I like, and they make a pretty decent sized flower. So I'm just gonna go with those measurements. So the first height I'm gonna go with is 4. And with the height of each petal, I like to put 2 inches in between. Yeah, so these are all in inches. So 2 inches in between. So this is the first petal, which is 4. The next one will be 6. The next one, 8. And the final one, 10. So those are going to be the 4 heights of each of my 4 petals. Now, we have the height. Let's go to the width. For the width, I'm going to start with 3 inches wide. And I only put an inch difference between the width because I don't want a huge variation. So since this is 3, 4, 5, and 6, I have my width. And for the base, again, completely up to you, but I just like to start with 1 inch. And then I only increase the base by 1/2 inch. So the next one will be 1.5, 2, and 2.5. Just like that. So I have all of my measurements. And so this is one petal. It's going to be 4 inches high, 3 inches wide, and the base is going to be 1 inch. The second petal, 6 inches high, 4 inches wide, 1.5 inches for the base. And so forth and so on. So now we have all of those, and for the petals, I usually make 6 of the larger 2 and 5 of the smaller 2. But you can definitely make 6 of all of them, or if you want to kind of stagger it and make 7, 6, 5, 4, or again, whatever you choose, that's completely up to you. But we have our measurements, so let's go ahead and get started making the actual templates. So I'm going to keep my measurements nearby, just so I can use them as a reference. I'm going to start making the smallest template and then work my way up. So for the smallest one, the height is 4 inches. So I like to line the graph paper up. 4 squares equal 1 inch. So that's the easy way to measure 1 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch. So it's just very easy. So that's why I like to use graph paper. So the height is 4 inches. So 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, 4. So I made a little line right there at the 4 inch mark. And what I'm going to do is make the line all the way across. Again, I do not have a ruler, but if you have a ruler, that will make this step a little easier. I'm just going to use the graph paper and draw a line. So I know that no matter what, nothing that I draw for my template is going to pass this line because I don't want it higher than 4 inches. And if it works easy for you, you can definitely cut it and just work with the square by itself if that makes it easier for you. Alright, so we have the height. Next we want to work is the width. So, and don't forget, this paper is folded in half. So for the width, you have to take into account that it's folded in half. So whatever width you have, you measure, it's going to double when you open the sheet of paper. If that makes sense. So say this goes over 4 inches. When you open it, the width is actually going to be 8 inches. So just definitely keep that in mind. So for a width of 3 inches, for the smallest petal, we are actually only going to measure 1.5 inches. That way when we open it, it's going to be a full 3 inches. So 1.5. Just like that. So now you are working in this space. Okay, so we have the height, we have the width. Last thing we need is the base, which the base is 1 inch. So again, take into account that this is folded in half. So we actually only want to measure 1/2 inch for the base. So that's only 2 squares. And I'm putting a little dot right there. Alright. Next thing I want to do is, just because I like to keep it as uniform as possible, I'm going to find the halfway mark of the height. So I'm going to find 2 inches. 1 inch, 2 inches right there. And make a line. Alright, and then I'm going to just make a dot right there. Okay, so the easiest way that I do, the reason I cut it in half is because I make the base pretty much the same. I'm just going to connect the dot that we measured for the base to that halfway point, and it's just going to be a straight diagonal. So that's the bottom half. Now with the top half, you can do whatever you want. If you want it to be very sharp, you can draw it like that. You can make it more curved like that. You can even give it a little cave at the end, kind of like a heart, and cave it downward like that. Or you can even give it like multiple humps like this. I mean, there's so many different things you can do with this. You can just, again, you're making it yourself, so you can have fun with it. Make whatever kind of petals, experiment with different kinds of petals, just whatever you like to do. I'm gonna do just like the classic round petal, just to show you guys. So because I don't want the petal all different sizes for each one, I'm going to measure the halfway mark again, so just 1 inch. And draw the line. Okay, and I only want to make my curve from the top to right here, just so it's very uniform. I could definitely go from right here, but there's a lot of space to kind of wiggle around and mess it up a little bit. So that's the safest way. So all I'm gonna do, again, I'm free texting, or not free. And again, I'm just like freehanding it, but if you have like something that's circular and you want to use that to help make a nice perfect curl, then you can definitely do that. But I think the curve is just it's gonna be fine. It doesn't have to be 100% perfect. So that's how I have it. Again, you can modify it again. If you're like, oh, that one is a little crooked, let me do it again, then you can definitely do it again. Or you can kind of modify it when you're cutting it out. But essentially, this is what it's looking like. Okay, so I'm setting that to the side, and I'll show you guys one more. So that was the smallest petal. Now we're gonna go to the next size. So 6 for the height, 4 for the width, 1.5 for the base. Have the sheet of graph paper folded in half. Line it up so that you're measuring accurately. All right, height is 6 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so that's my height. So everything else is gonna stay below this 6-inch mark. So width is 4, but don't forget this paper is folded in half. So we're going to cut the width in half. So we're actually only going to measure 2 inches. Okay, so 1, 2. Okay, and make a line there. Everything on the template is going to stay in this area. All right, so we've measured the height and the width. Last thing is the base, which it is 1.5. Half of that is 0.75. So 3 squares. 1, 2, 3. Make a little dot right there. Perfect. And don't forget, I like to measure halfway. Measure half of the height so that I can keep everything nice and uniform. Since the height is 6, I'm going to measure 3. 1, 2, 3. And then draw a line. Just like that. And I'm just going to make a little dot. So I like to just make a diagonal from the base to the halfway point. Just like that, and the top is where you can play around with it and have fun with it. But don't forget, we're only making the classic petal, so it's just gonna be round. Since we're doing that, I want to find the halfway point again. So that's gonna be 1.5. So 1 and 2 boxes. Just like that. And again, you can definitely skip this step if you're like, oh girl, I don't care, I just want to make a petal and make it look fairly decent. Then you can definitely skip this step and just freehand that top part. That's completely up to you. But I just do that extra step just to make it as uniform as possible. But if they're not completely uniform, it is okay. Again, I'm just freehanding it, and I'm just making the curve. Just like that. So this is the smallest one, and then that's the next size up. And then I'm just gonna make the last 2, and then I will show you what they're looking like. Alright, so this is what they're looking like. I have the 4, 6, 8, and 10. And they look fairly similar. So again, you can kind of modify it as you cut it if you'd like. If you don't like how it's looking, then you can just redraw the very top. But this is essentially what it's going to look like, and it's so quick and easy, so simple to do. And the only thing you have to do is modify the top to change the entire look of the flower. Alright, so this is what they're looking like cut out, but they're still folded in half. And I like to make sure they all look fairly similar, so I just stack them on top of each other and kind of just eye it and see if there's anything you need to, like if you need to make one more curved, or if you need to trim something off one of them. But they look pretty good. They look very similar. Like I said, they don't have to be perfect, just close to each other. And these look pretty good to me. But you can modify it, change it, do whatever you'd like. So I'm just going to open them so you can see the full petals. Just like that. So that's what they're looking like. And this is so simple and easy to make. Again, modify it if you want larger petals, if you want smaller petals, you can just modify your measurements to fit that. And again, it doesn't take very long at all, and it's so simple and cute, and you can make tons of patterns and change them up however often you'd like. So I'll show you guys videos of me using these templates to make paper flowers. So cute, simple, easy to do. Change it up as much as you'd like. Make different patterns, different styles, different sizes. It's so simple, and you can do it yourself in like less than 10 minutes. You can buy like a full pack of graph paper from Dollar Tree and make like 20 templates. So that saves money, is very economical, and it's just awesome all the way around. One thing I do want to mention about the templates, if you don't want a crease on your actual flowers, then just trace the templates when they're open. Like if you want to use a pattern that has a crease, then fold it in half and then trace it on the paper, fold it in half. That way when you open it, when you cut it out and open it, it'll have the crease. So if you want the crease, fold the template in half and trace it over the paper folded in half. But if you don't want the crease, then open the template and just place it on the paper flat and trace it like that. That way it's nice and smooth. But yeah, that's my quick 10-minute DIY flower template with graph paper that I purchased at Dollar Tree. So I'll put a link in the description box below of me making a flower using this actual template. Alright, hope you guys enjoy.